Hey, this is Manley with theverticallessons.com. A question I often get is, Manley, what's the one thing, if you were going to share with me or my group, that you have seen has made the biggest impact on people, making a bigger impact and having a greater effectiveness in their work, professional life and personal life, climbing mountains, whatever it is? What's the secret? What is the one thing you would share? And it's very clear to me that one focal point I've found all the overlap and peak performers and people who really step up and make a difference is that those who are getting uncomfortable on a regular basis and seeking discomfort in their efforts, they step up and they show up and make a bigger impact and are more productive, more efficient, more helpful. They have a more fulfilled life as well, and their personal life too. So that's great, and most people would not disagree with that, and most people I share that idea with, like, yeah, of course, I want my people to do that. I want to do that myself. The question is how, right? Then how do we do that? That's exactly what I'm going to share with you in this video, and I'm going to explain why I'm sitting outside and not in my normal studio as well. I'm going to give you some proactive and reactive tools, simple tools in the form of questions to help you consistently embrace exposure, those uncomfortable situations that are huge opportunities for growth in just little ways on a daily basis. So the first thing I want to share with you is an awareness question, and to be aware of when you say the word when, okay? So here's a good example. I need to film my monthly video for my newsletter to share with you, and my studio's a wreck. We put new windows in, and it's moving a bunch of stuff around. It's just crap everywhere. So I kept putting it off. I've been saying well, when I get the studio cleaned up, I'll get the video done. Well, now it's approaching the end of the month and haven't gotten it done. So the concept is this, it's simple, but watch out for when, literally using that word and driving awareness in your language. When you say, well, I'll go to that new skill building group, or take that class, or I'll read that book, or I'll bring that up in the meeting, or I'll share that with my team, or I'll have that uncomfortable conversation when this happens. Watch out for when. And you notice that word popping up, that's a reactive awareness that you can start driving in your thought patterns. That's really a sign of procrastination, something that's uncomfortable there, right? Now I'm going to give you the proactive tool that you can use as well. I try to do this daily, and writing this down can be very effective. The question to drive awareness proactively in your life is, what uncomfortable opportunity is presenting today? So once you've planned out your day and you have your coffee or whatever you do in your morning routine, towards the end of that routine, you look at that schedule. I want you to ask that question consistently. What uncomfortable opportunity may be presenting today? And then somehow outline that, or put a star on it, or underline it so that it stands out, because that's a huge sign of two things. Number one, an area where you're probably going to resist, but most importantly, it's probably a potential area of growth or to help move something important forward in your life. So being aware of that can drive that awareness. Now, once you figure out what it is and you shine the light on it, that doesn't mean you necessarily do it, right? What typically pops up next is resistance, right? So resistance shows up in a lot of different forms. One question and little tool I'm going to give you that can help you just hit that resistance head on. Once you've identified when you're making a when statement, well, when this happens, I'll do this, procrastination, or you've actually reflected and said, okay, this is uncomfortable, but I think it's worth me doing this. Then immediately followed up with what I call an advantage exercise and tool, and that is to walk yourself through real quickly. Just write down, pen and paper is really powerful here. Write down, what's the worst case that could happen? If you go and do that, what's the worst case that could happen? Writing it down is incredibly powerful, because what I found in my work is that when you write it down, it gets it out of your head. We're very emotional creatures. Even if we're guarded with our emotions, you write it down, and then once you see that on paper, you're much more likely to actually read it. Just the facts will remain on the paper, the fear should fall aside, and you'll have much more clarity on, what's really the worst case. If I bring this up in the meeting, or I do this, or I go down to the park to film this video for my newsletter instead of the studio, what's the worst thing can happen? Worst thing happens, it turns out, I don't know, somebody thinks it's unprofessional or whatever. Once I wrote it down, I'm like, okay, it's not that big a deal. It's better to get it done and just go for it, even though it's uncomfortable. So here I am, outside recording this video for you. That's a great little question. Write down what's the worst case on it, and I think that will free you up to then move into this fourth little tool I'm going to give you. It's also in the form of a question. It's an action tool in this case, and the simple action tool is to ask yourself, what's one small step I could do to move that forward? What's one small move I can make today towards that uncomfortable opportunity that may be presenting, or this thing that I'm procrastinating? So one simple little thing you can do to move it forward. Another powerful way I've heard this question presented was from my publisher. He had a mentor of his ask him, he said, how could you get started in a small way? That was Mr. Henry DeVries shared that with me from his mentor. Really powerful question. I love it because it just gives us permission to just a little step, right? And it helps disarm some of that chaos and emotion in our head. And well, what if we do this? Not just a little step. How can I get started in a small way? I hope that was helpful for you. So number one, watch out for when. See that popping up in your internal thought patterns, your language, look out for when. And then proactively, asking yourself on a daily basis, what uncomfortable opportunity is presenting today? And then if you see that resistance popping up, go ahead and take that advantage and write out real quick, what's the worst case could happen? And then finally, the action step, what's a small way I can move this forward, or how can I get started in a small way? I hope that's helpful to you. Please share, if you could, my call to action for you. It's just in the comments below or via social media. Share something in your life, maybe it's a little uncomfortable, that you're willing to step out and go for, maybe a little move, get moving on it in your life, professionally or personally, either way. I hope this has been helpful for you. Please share it with the people in your life, and I look forward to supporting you any way I can. Thanks for watching.